in Colombia, only 6% of people trust politicians. More than 60% of people trust teachers. So when I get to a hotel and I have to put my occupation, well, people are very kind with me, more women than men. Um, but when you have shared emotions, for at least some moment, I think that you have a sort of warranty against violence. It's very strange, but I have lived it like that. Once, a very drunk military was inviting me to drink more, and at a certain moment he began to tell stories that I didn't want to hear about torture. At a certain moment, I had to say to him, "You have the gun. If you want to use it, you can use it. I cannot impeach. We cannot stop that. But until the last moment, my thinking will be mine. And I suppose that you want to persuade me." So, in some sense, I use Habermas' approach. It's in the base of human communication. There is freedom to accept the other's arguments or not. And every human being knows the distinction between honest argument between two human beings and then manipulated, forced. Yes. And so, in the very deep structure of wanting to make politics, there is a hope that I can convince you without using coercion. Obviously, on the basis of social order, and so there is coercion. But that coercion is limited by a constitution. So I recognize it publicly that the most difficult profession in Colombian society is to be police officer, because you have to use force. But if I was a cartoon maker, my cartoon would be not a trifulca, a battle with people, and the policeman saying, "Let me enter. Allow me to be there." So, I remember the moment when I saw the pedagogical temptation, and I fall in it. I'm not sure that I was always new style. In many cases, I was. I had a very good team. For example, we had a water shortage, and at the end of the week, people, instead of consuming less water, were consuming more water. And I had called people to save water voluntarily, because the normal situation is the mayor asks for 1 or 2 days people to save water, and after that he says, "You didn't save, I will cut by hours, 8 hours there. I will make a shift distribution of water." But this is not very rational. It's a lot more rational to have the water. But I was going to regañar, to make people feel badly. But my team said, "Let's do a study." 24 hours later, we knew that most people wanted to support the policy. Most people were not putting water in gardens or not washing their cars. So many people were with us, but some people were putting water in vessels just in case. We discovered that in the house of the chief of the water company, And in the house of the chief of Cultura Ciudadana, they had vessels of water, saved. So we were not trusted even in our houses. So in that case, I continued. And the next week, the water consumption began too. So patience is very important. If you demoralize at the first adversity, you are in a problem. I had a team with majority of women. In the last, it was mayor 2 times. The second time, I forced things a little bit to have more than 70% of human in the team. I wanted men going to the Constitutional Court saying it's exaggerated. But my rule was for choosing one person, I had 3 candidates, at least 1 woman. And it was the result of the tests. So, well, the tests were not looking who is good, but what will happen if I work with that person with those characteristics. So the worstest collaborator for me would be myself, because of perfectionism, preferring to write a text than to go to an interview with the president, or looking for easy tasks. John Lester has written Antanas is unique, but he's a little bit lazy. So I had to adjust several times my team, and the team was just asked to be trustable and to solve the problems in legal way, not illegality. And it was amazing. Leftist, like a professor of the Faculty of Rights, conservatives were all saying Antanas es muy legalista, Antanas is too much legalist, when my approach is rather culturalist. I think that what makes us behave in a certain way is not law. In many cases, it's custom. It's the reaction to what the other people could say. It's other people's judgment. So if you have a sort of consensus that stealing is a bad thing, you will not have much stealing. One thing, and I finish with this intervention, we had a French psychoanalyst making a conference about Joyce, the writer. And he told us the story of epiphanies. Joyce didn't write texts of theory of what is to write and why something works or not. But being very young, he wrote a small text where he speaks about epiphanies. In Spanish, epiphanies can be translated but also changed a lot, saying se le apareció la Virgen. In this case, it's short moments where utopia is true. Very short moments. And you see that, for example, the other people feel something very close to what you feel. Or perhaps it's an illusion. Perhaps never two human beings do not believe never, do not feel ever the same thing. But in my experience, there are moments where you see it evident that we are sharing a moral emotion. And share the moral emotion, you have new grounds. You have something in common. It's always, not always for moral thinking, sometimes for jokes. Well, when people laugh at Niyole's interventions,
Antanas' mother.
She's
We love her.
yes, she goes straight to this out. She becomes the sort of main character. Because she can combine a sort of moral evaluation. She is not no se engañada. She's not
Fooled.
fooled. And he has the time to make an eye click. And she was very important, and she is very important, but she was helping me to support a sort of big change in role. In some sense, don't be trapped by the role. In the film she says, or I say that she says, not being sad if you do not win elections. That's the first rule in politics. There are many people that Lopez Michelsen, former Colombian president, was saying, I asked him about his second, when he tried to be re-elected. And he said, I truly didn't have a real desire of being elected. It was like when you try to have a girlfriend and she says no. Really. Yes, and there is a lot of vanity things, of vanity traps. I was giving very small, short talks to my team about sociology of culture, but in a very careful manner, because I had a strong fear that they would say Antanas is crazy. So I used tips, very small tips, but I used it also exercises. On Halloween, you can see in the film, we dress it as Alicia Eugenia dressed it as a nun, and the nun dressing revelates a lot, all her relation with local mayors and so on. Some things didn't function at all and can be criticized very strongly. I asked homeless to give me his dress, and I would give him a dress in interchange. I went to the theater festival inauguration with the best of the, but as it was the theater festival inauguration, nobody seen nothing strange. So it was stupid. I was feeling animals. and so sometimes you want to be spectacular or something like that, and the miracle does not function. The miracle functions when you connect with emotions on moral issues. There is nothing so dissolving of morals like professional politicians. They are very happy, a little bit like adults with young people. That doesn't function. Don't make illusions. You will become cynical yourself. It's the first time you get in office. But when you will want to be re-elected, you will accept some tricks. So, politics are on the extreme of human beings being in a life that is oriented politically. On the other side, World Value Survey, the cultural map of the world, the 5 societies that are the less modernized, in Max Weber's sense, that are the most traditional, are 2 African societies and Salvador, Puerto Rico, and Colombia. We are on the border of the map. Very, very traditional society. So, in some sense, I had to have some relation with church, with Catholic Church, and La Vida Sagrada is a sort of halfway meeting with that tradition, with some funny moments, like asking the Archbishop of Bogota if I could distribute condoms in December, with the instruction, inflate and make explode. And the Archbishop was very clear. He said, the sin is not in the condom. So I made a paraphrasis of him. They said, it's better not to commit sin, but if you are going to do sins, take the condom. So locally, on some small questions, we got harmony between very different forces. Well, my philosophical background was perhaps May 68. I came to France in June 69. One of my professors was beginning his lesson saying, I don't know if this has sense. All the year, a full year, each week, a person expressing doubts about his work. But I have said too much things.